Warning. Do not try anything you see here at home. You've been warned. On this episode of Mythbusters, it's hearts racing and smooth sailing. Whoa! Holy beep! First up. Oh, this one's a doozy. We'll see if Shivam will really die alone.
What?
That's it. That's all. That's all I got. I just wanted to get your reaction to that. I didn't plan later on.
Experiment duration.
Experiment
At least
duration.
70 years.
I was gonna include like one of the cats being like, I don't see it, or I don't see how this could be false, or something like that, or like I don't see how this could be a myth, and then and then include like a second part that's like a really well known like misconception or like a fact that like you wouldn't question, that you'd be like, wow, that's that has to be true. So that like it seems like both of them are like just true.
Yeah.
But
I was not expecting that, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we couldn't. We looked some shit up and we couldn't think of it, and I couldn't tell Shivam what I was doing. So
it makes a lot more sense now. I was like, I think it'd be easier if you just told me, then like maybe I could help you.
Because I was like, if I tell you what to expect, you're not gonna like react well.
Yeah.
And then like
all right, well, props to you. Yeah, good call on
thank
that.
You,
good
thank
call.
You. I was like, dude, what's a myth that like we can test? And he was like, because I said smooth sailing, so I was like, what's a sailing myth? Which neither one of us are sailors or like have a boat.
We don't. I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
No, I do not.
I can genuinely say like I think the first time I've been on a boat was at one of our friends' places when we had like our boating party.
Oh, we went out on
the we went on the Lake of
the
Austin.
Colorado River.
Colorado, is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's not a
River.
Lake. No, it's not, because that one's on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Of Austin, I think.
Dude, we rode
I could be totally wrong. But
dude,
I'm pretty sure it's the Colorado.
Dude, no, we rode the Colorado River in Colorado. Whoa, we're worldwide.
Whoa.
Awesome boys in Colorado.
Yeah,
break.
And it's legal in Colorado.
What's up, guys? What's up, you fucking giants? Welcome back to 5'12" Pod, the only podcast where you get to hear our sexy voices. I'm Isaac. Join with me is my co-host Shivam. Shivam, say hi.
Yeah, I just want to say, Isaac, I definitely am not on any other podcasts that are much better than this one. I just want to let you know, just don't look anything up that says shit.
Don't listen to anything that says anything otherwise. It's fake. It's false news.
And it's definitely not called the I Hate Isaac podcast.
It's not called the FI. The fuck Isaac.
FI, yeah.
FI.
Fuck Isaac.
FI squad.
And it really just depends on my mood, right? Because sometimes I'm like, man, fuck Isaac.
Oh, wait,
sometimes I'm like, I want to.
Wait, it's like, welcome guys to the Fuck Isaac podcast, the podcast dedicated to getting that boy laid.
It's just completely not what I said.
Yeah, and it's like a full hour of just being like, please, he needs this. And just like,
I'm just like,
he rode the Colorado River once.
Oh, yeah.
He's 6 feet tall.
Be like, that's the only time he's got anything wet.
Dude, that's probably true. Wait,
don't
that's not
that.
Not true. That's actually not true. That's not true.
Yeah, it probably is. But
fuck you. Well,
but yeah,
we'll myth bust.
It's just it just turns into me calling like everybody I know, and they're like, "Show them like this is the second time in one day. You gotta stop."
I said no, and then there's like that one person that was like, "Okay, fine. If I say no, you're just gonna call again." And just like slowly wear down everybody we know.
Yeah, it's war of attrition style.
Dude, once I get
eventually it'll just come down. I'll just end up calling you, and you'll be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
what?
And I'm just like, I'm sorry. What is this for?
Like, this is the thing to get a
abort.
Oh man.
Well, dude, I came up with a thing that I thought it was really cool. I was gonna tell you before the podcast, but um, I was thinking of segment names, just like as a
Okay.
joke, like not actually real segments, just like what can we call shit that we do that nobody really wants to hear about, but like whatever. So I was thinking
Okay.
like we do tech talks accidentally a lot because I'm a fucking nerd. Um, so I was
Okay.
like, oh, let me see if I can remember it. I wanted to get this organically. Let me write it down. Shiv him talk
hmm
while I write this down.
I mean, the first name that came to mind would be accidental TED Talks. I think like my favorite, like one of my favorite like gags is like taking like an actual thing and then just throwing a discount in front of it. So
Yeah, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. Oh, audio sync. We got audio sync. Uh,
why
one,
don't
two, three.
we can
What?
oh okay wait hold on say it again sorry.
I'm just gonna do it. I don't care.
All right, fuck it. Yeah.
Audio sync on three. One, two, three. One, two,
One,
three.
two, three.
Let's do that again. Audio sync on three. One, two, three. One, two,
One,
three.
two, three.
That wasn't bad.
It
That
it
wasn't
was
bad.
spot on, baby.
Fuck for you.
Yeah, for me.
That's how you fucked us over that last episode.
Hey man, I'm telling you, like it sounds perfect to me.
It does. Not to me though.
So
That
like,
actually, we
mhm.
honestly maybe we should just call through this from now on because that was like it was like one, one, two, two, three, three or whatever. I'm like,
Oh shit. Okay, so instead of a 2 second delay, it's gonna be one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Because like I was we're responding really fast to everything that we're saying. It's like there's no delay, even though technically there is.
Sick.
Don't. I don't want that to become conscious in your head, people that are listening. But yeah, there's a 1 second delay, and if that bothers you, it's gonna bother you the rest of the episode now. So suck a dick. I need to stop saying that. I always
Don't let the
tell.
delay bother you. You're so sexy.
Nah, don't. Girl, don't let that bother you. You're so hot. Nah, babe, keep listening and don't notice a delay. You're so hot.
Did you know that the guy who like did that, who like started the original one, he actually is a student at UT?
What the fuck, really? There's
Yeah, I'm
no way.
serious.
There's no
I
way.
think he was like a TA. I don't know what his name is, but like someone sent me an Instagram post like sometime recent in the recent few days, last few days, and he was in it. He looks different now, but like you can tell it's the same guy.
Is that the first instance of that? Like confirmed?
No,
He
like this
started
isn't
it?
even the like I had seen that and I was like, "Oh shit, like this is proof." But before that, I had actually heard that he is a student at UT. Or I think TA. I'm not entirely sure, but there is a connection.
So it is 100% that guy that started it.
Yeah, it's that guy.
Oh my god, that's insane. What the fuck? Hey,
Isn't
what
that
starts here
awesome?
changes the world, baby.
Ah, ah,
Wait, I want so bad just for that to like be the most like I want that to be true, but to a degree that's insignificant. Like memes like that, like what starts here changes the world, and it's like, babe, don't do that. You're so hot, and like it's inconsequential to the grand scheme of things, but it like it changes society in a way that's like nobody wants.
Just like ultimately for the worse, but we did change the world, so
Well,
that's okay.
it can't. Oh, I guess for the worse is also kind of funny, but it can't be for the worse, or else they wouldn't like put that as their slogan. But it's like, but I want it to be. You, do you watch Community? You watch Community, right? Do you see it?
I've seen a handful of episodes. There's one
Ah, fuck.
episode like I just remember the pillow fort thing or the blanket fort, sorry.
Love that
I've seen
episode.
like random episodes that focus on like Troy and Abed
Yeah,
and how like great they are together, but besides that, I don't know a whole lot.
dude, Troy and Abed, more like Shivam and Isaac.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
sick.
ah. Anyways, moving on.
Dude, nice.
Oh,
That was pretty good. That
oh,
was pretty good.
we
And you know what they say, what starts here changes the world.
yeah, we gotta get some of our friends on this podcast because
I mean, yeah,
I have
I
some
was just
people.
gonna
We
say
have
I don't
some
know if we
people.
have a lot of
I don't
friends
know.
who would.
I don't know why I needed to say that now, but I just need to say that now. I feel like if I don't
I
say that
think
now, I'm gonna forget and like
okay, hold
never
on.
say it. Hmm?
that brings up a good question
Wait, hold on.
because okay,
Wait,
okay,
do
yeah,
we
yeah,
have?
yeah.
Let's make sure that we don't skip. Do we finish our thoughts on whatever?
I
Uh
think so. I
oh,
didn't really
okay,
have much to
okay. I
say.
did bring up Community. So like, Greendale is known for like dumb things and like really small, insignificant things. Um, and they really hype up the small shit, like the really, really small shit. Like they had
Like,
like
uh-huh.
there's a whole episode dedicated, which is I think one of my favorite episodes, just because of like I used to watch movies that were like that. It's the
Mhm.
space exploration one, which the opening scene is amazing. It's just this guy. If you haven't seen it, like go watch it. Like honestly, just pause the podcast, look up Community Space episode, and watch like the opening scene, because like seeing it organically is great. If you hear me explain it, it's not as good. It's like a 5 minute clip. You don't need to watch the whole episode. Just watch that scene, because it's if you've ever watched like a space movie or like whatever, it's like you'll love it. But it's
It
this
like
dude.
parodies that style.
Yeah, yeah, it's this dude running. Like it's a low shot of his feet, crawl shot, or not crawl shot. It's a low shot of his feet, and it's like tracking, right? And he's like running, and then it shoots up, and he's carrying something, and the hallway is like
Oh.
dark, and he busts into this
Mhm.
boardroom. He's like, City College has a space simulator, and then like the dean is like, we know, sit down, and then they have this fucking scheme, like this like they're like planning a fucking like whatever, and it's so funny because it's inconsequential, but they make it so dramatic, and it feels like a brief, like a NASA brief or whatever, and like it feels like a government operation, because
Mhm.
everybody's cadence is exactly what it would be like in like a
Like that formal
security or
like
like whatever,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
um and it's
Oh,
just so
that
great,
sounds funny.
and the whole premise is like City College has a space simulator, and if it's kind of cool, because I feel like this is how companies kind of work in real life. um but like they're like, if they are the first ones to do it, then they get to put it on their brochure, and they get all the attraction, they get all the attention, they get all the news coverage and whatever. And if we do it second, nobody's going to care, we're just going to be copying them. But we know
Mhm.
that they already have it planned, so we have to do it now. So it's basically kind of like swooping them, even though they came up with the idea, so that they get the press coverage. So like, uh, the episode's like conflict is like, the Greendale Seven, which is like the main cast.
Mhm.
They got in trouble, so now they have to wash like this KFC like, um,
You say
it's not.
KFC?
Yeah, it's not actually like a space simulator. It's just a KFC like branded like space kind of game, and they're
What the
trying
hell?
yeah, yeah, they're trying to make it seem like, oh, it's a space simulator, we have a space simulator, we're going to make astronauts, even though neither one can produce astronauts. Like
Yeah.
neither college. um and so then they're like, as long as we just get this out, it's fine. So they make them watch it because they got in trouble, but then they accidentally lock themselves in the fucking, uh they lock
In this
themselves in the
in
thing.
the simulator
Yeah, in
thing,
the
yeah.
simulator, because they went inside and they weren't supposed to. And then City College learned about this thing, so they towed it, so that they wouldn't be able to do the unveiling in time. And so like, so basically it's a rescue mission, and like, Abid is on the ground, and Abid's the one who really cares about like the space simulator kind of thing. Like he really cares about the KFC, specifically the KFC space simulator.
Oh, just
Yeah.
not space as a whole.
Yeah, because he wasn't allowed to do it as a kid, so of course he became obsessed with it because he wasn't allowed to do it, and it's like the dumbest thing ever. So he's like, it should have been me on that ship, and he's like, well, and like the dean's like, well, we have to get him home, and then he like
Oh.
walks away, and he's like, that guy's fucking crazy. And then like,
uh,
so from the communities, like they turn the study room into like a NASA like mission
like
control
a
room.
mission.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
then they're communicating to them, and then like they have shots. So it's beat for beat, like, at least thematically, a space exploration thing. And so it's funny because they have like shots that make it see, like when they're towing the when they're actually towing like the truck, or like the simulator, it shows like a top down perspective of the like bottom half of the thing, and like the parking lot, which is like, it's like, it has lot numbers that are like increasing. So it
Mhm.
it doesn't look like it's taking off, but it gives you the feel of like, oh, this thing is like taking off, and like
It's like launching.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
launching. And before that, you don't know like, oh, they're being towed or whatever. So like they're just
Oh.
moving, and he's like,
You're like, oh my god.
yeah. And so then and Greendale can't see any like the Greendale 7 can't see anything because the windows are closed, which is a really
Oh, so they're
weird.
just responding to it the
Yeah,
same
yeah. They're
way.
they're
Yeah.
like they're like, oh my god, are we are we taking off? Like skeptical, and then Jeff's like, no, we're being towed, and then it shows a tow truck. Yeah, but
Just
it's so
shatters the illusion.
the payoff is the same. So my point was, what was my point? Um, what the fuck was I gonna connect that to? Oh, the little things. It's the little things. So like if
It is.
like UT
Yeah.
did the same shit, like we actually can't produce anything, so we like hype up the little things and we say what starts here changes the world, but it's like a fucking meme, and we're like, yeah, we made that meme. UT
Oh.
baby. I was like, I
Oh,
just
I get
wanted
what you mean.
yeah, I was like, I just wanted to be exactly like I went on long about the episode, but I really liked that episode, so
No,
all right.
it sounds great, and like I'm looking at the Wikipedia for it, called Basic Rocket Science. It's a spoof of Apollo 13. So
Oh,
that's like
yeah,
where
yeah.
the whole space,
Yeah.
like that was. I think that was like a huge space movie.
Yeah, dude, that movie's awesome. I love that movie.
I don't
Wait,
know
did
if
I
I've
watch that
seen
movie?
this.
Hold on, let me check.
It
I
has
saw
Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon.
what? There's no way I saw. Wait, maybe because it was what year was it? It was an old movie, right?
95.
Ooh, maybe. Hold on, let me look it up. Apollo 13, right?
Yes.
Which I'm gonna actually fucking get. Like, actually, no, it should come with the movie. That I don't think that was.
I don't think I've ever seen this, but
Yeah,
it looks pretty
the
cool.
fucking actual space mission came up. Um,
No, just look at Apollo 13, Tom Hanks.
no, yeah, I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Dude, no, I don't think it was this one. I saw like, oh no, 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 it wasn't that one because it would have been like, it was one where it's like there's a girl on the crew and then there's like a guy. Like I can only remember vaguely like the main characters, and it was like they were just I don't even remember the conflict honestly, but I just like space as a kid mostly because my dad was a huge space buff and he got me into
Mhm.
it, so I like Star Trek and shit like that. But man, watching that, I was just like, that's why I really like Community because like the payoff is so great if you understand like the tropes, right? So like
Mhm.
the pillow fort or at least the second, so like the first pillow or the first blanket fort episode was like a chase sequence in a city, and they made the fucking pillow fort feel like a city, which to me was like
Yeah,
really
it was
fucking.
very expansive.
It's
I remember from
so
that episode, it was
yeah,
huge, and they have districts.
yeah,
They had districts.
yeah,
That
and
was what really sold it for
and
me. Yeah.
that's just like the fucking it's like the world building in this weird ass community college is insane. You know, like it's so plausible that they would take something really small and blow it out of proportion like that, like a blanket fort, and make it into a city, like a city spans,
And
and
like
then
one big enough to even make it onto the news, like the
yeah,
newspaper.
exactly. And then the second one was like it was like it became a war documentary, but like the first one was setting up like the tension before the war. Uh cuz it
So
was
it was like a
it,
2 episode thing.
yeah, yeah, it was a blanket fort versus a pillow fort. And it was really funny
Interesting.
cuz they got like who do they get? Dude, he has a deep voice. Oh, I can't remember. I think he was actually like a regular cast member later on.
Mhm.
Um uh Forts I'm gonna see who get. He does like he has like a deep voice. He's a black man. I don't remember his name. But he has a really like deep voice. It's not Morgan Freeman, but
Are you
it's
talking about James Earl Jones?
maybe that sounds right. But I also don't want to say that because I feel
He was
like
the guy that played. He
it's
voiced
very
Darth
wrong.
Vader and Mufasa. He was the original Darth Vader voice.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't think it's him. But it also
I
probably
think his
is
voice
him
is
because
awesome.
it matches. Shit, man. New Fluffy Town before naming it Pillow Town. Okay, so it's season 3. Um, what is the name of the episode? Um, they don't actually give me whatever. I'll find it and sometime in this episode I'll give the name. But it's his voice, and it's just like a lot of them are like still images as if like this battle happened or whatever. and
And
it's
he's like
like
narrating over it.
yeah, like it's years ago, and they only have photography footage. But then they have like they have some like video footage, like of
Okay.
a couple things, like when the first fight, and then like the last fight,
Mhm.
and it feel and they like really they take a map of Greendale. Oh, you know what it is? It's a I learned this term, bottle episode. Do you know what a bottle episode is?
No, I've never heard that.
Hey guys, apparently this is the community episode of the podcast, so deal with it. um, because apparently we're gonna be talking about this for a bit. Um, it's a bottle episode is where they either have like less production costs, or like sorry, they have less budget for that episode for whatever reason, or they have
Mhm.
minimal time to shoot, so they have to like reduce significantly the scale of their whatever. So they'll
Oh,
do
so it
yeah.
like a bottle, like the neck of the bottle.
Yeah,
Got it.
a lot of times they actually did one, and they blatantly said this is a bottle episode. We're doing a bottle episode. It's when they're in the study room, and Annie was like, "Hey, has anybody seen my pen?" And they're like, "Nah, I haven't seen your pen." And she like freaks out because it's the 13th time she's lent somebody her pen, and then they haven't
Okay.
given it back. And she was like, "I'm tired of being not taken seriously. I'm tired of you guys like exploiting me or whatever, exploiting my kindness. I'm figuring out who has my pen." And then it drones on for a really long time. And it gets to the point where they're like, I can't believe that somebody would take my pen and waste our time like this. And she's like, you have to be like psychotic, or you have to be like sadist to do that. Um, and then, but like, but like Abed's freaking out because he's like, this is not like, there's nothing happening in this episode. Is this a
Oh,
bottle up?
he's
Yeah, yeah,
he's the one who's like weirdly like
yeah. He's
lucid
meta.
about that stuff.
He's meta. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like, I don't want to do a bottle episode. And like, there's over the PA system, there's a puppy parade going on. They have like like a ton of puppies on campus just for the day.
Mhm.
And they're like, the dean over the PA is just saying like, "Oh my God, you got to come out and see these puppies," but we never see the puppies, except for like,
Oh.
yeah, except for the post credits scene, you actually see some of the puppies. And that's the whole point of like a bottle episode is like stuff is happening elsewhere that is being talked about, but you're not actually seeing because they don't have like the budget to show that.
To like
And it
include it, yeah.
yeah, and it primarily takes place in one room because that's cheap. It's one set piece. You just move around the set and like change the camera perspective and stuff like that. But it's not a bad episode. I thought bottle episodes were negative. It's mostly like they used the time to spend on like character development and like actually like going through motions and stuff like that, and like and trying to get like it usually turns out to be a good episode because like you see a lot of the characters' motivations more because that's the main plot line, like it they can't do all this extra stuff with different
So they have to
scenes.
focus on the
Yeah,
characters.
so
Yeah, yeah.
the only thing they can do is just develop the characters. So
Mhm.
usually it turns out really well. But Abed is like he wants like action and stuff like that, and he wants things to happen and be dynamic, and he's like, I don't want to do a bottle episode. And then just like we're doing a bottle episode. And so
Yeah, no.
so
I
it
think that's
could
cool that they don't just make it like a filler. Like
no,
I
yeah.
know like a lot of series like notably like animes. I've heard a lot about
Whoa.
like shows like Naruto,
How dare you?
like and it
Just kidding.
has like they have like it's like like 400 500 episodes,
Yeah.
but only like a certain like 30-40% of those are actually like the main plot line.
Well, like they have they so animation anime is different. It's like they have to animation's hard. Like they basically do everything by hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll draw, so like a lot of it's they use computer software to stitch shit together and stuff like that. But they're drawing like there's these things called keyframes. So anime is actually really cool. Um they have these things called keyframes, which is like the art pieces where you would take that still and you put it on your wall or whatever your whatever. That's like the glory shots. It's really well like designed and really well like shaded, and like there's a lot of detail that goes into that. If they did every single frame like that, it would take way too long to do because they're drawing everything by hand and they're redrawing everything. Because like you could make like templates and stuff like that and use those, but a lot of times you want different camera angles or like different perspectives. And so you have to imagine the character in 3D space and understand how a shot will look and then draw that, which takes a long time and a lot of like work. Oh my god, my voice is cracking. I'm still going
Nice
through
voice
puberty.
crack.
Dude, I'm going through puberty,
Puberty.
dude. Oh,
How old are you?
small.
12? Ha ha
Yes,
ha. Okay, yeah.
I'm 12.
Oh,
I'm actually
well.
5, almost
Well,
5.
then
I
I
was
guess
born
we
on.
can't get you laid then.
Ah, shit.
Hmm.
I was born on a
I
leap
might.
year. I'm just kidding. Dude, I always wanted that to be true as a kid because I was just like, man, I want to be able to say I'm 5 and actually have it be true. But oh, alas.
Yeah, that'd be
Oh wait, no, I'd
so
almost
odd.
be. Oh yeah, I'd almost. No, I'd almost
At
be
this point, it's
6.
every 4 years. Yeah, so
Yeah,
about like
yeah. I'm almost 6. That's what I meant
almost
to say. Yeah,
6. Yeah.
I was thinking by 5, but it's 4. It's not 5 years.
Hmm.
Anyways, um, so if they drew every like frame, it would take too long. It's not possible. Um, oh man, I was gonna do like a small tangent. I can't even remember the tangents that I was gonna do. That's fine. We don't need it. So like they do these things called in between frames. I think that's what it's called, and they're usually very sloppy, just because it's to mimic the motion, right? So you go
Hmm. Yeah,
keyframe,
yeah, yeah.
motion in between frames, and then the last shot is a keyframe. So that way it cuts down. It's like a fifth. So like for every 5 in between frames, you do a keyframe. So it cuts your work down by like 5 times, technically. And like that number changes or whatever. And they have like teams of animators that'll work on an episode. So you have an art director or like the lead animator or something like that. I forgot what the word. I forgot what the title is, but they're the main. They're like, oh, I think it's a supervisor, and they're the ones who are drawing like the keyframes a lot of times, and they're drawing like, they're commanding like in the style of whatever, and they have like newer artists and newer staff members doing like in between shots, in between frames and stuff like that. So like
Hmm.
and they have to get a episode out every week usually. Um, so when you when you have like a very dynamic like episode arcs where there's a lot of fighting, a lot of keyframes, a lot of like just motion and visual appeal and stuff like that, and it's really good looking. You need to have these like filler arcs in between to kind of give everybody a break because it's a lot of fucking work. Um,
Right. Okay.
Especially because it's like a Japanese thing, and like in Japan, like they just kind of work themselves to death. Not because like they have terrible labor laws or anything like that, but just everybody there is so like focused on their craft and really focused on like producing good quality and stuff like that. And I think it's in their culture. It's kind of like more. It's just what you do, like how some
Yeah, it's like a
cultures.
societal norm.
Yeah, it's like how some cultures are really family focused, which I think they might. I don't know. I don't know too much about Japanese culture, but like they will do that for themselves. They'll work themselves to death. Like Sakurai with Smash, like fucking worked himself so hard that he went to the hospital, and everybody was like, "Bro, take a break. Like you're good. Like take a break, man." And that's a video game, so it's like if they can do that for those things, like they do that for everything basically. So like, they work really fucking hard, and so like they need those kind of like filler arcs to kind of give themselves a break where there's a lot
Hmm.
less action and a lot less going on. It's basically a bottle episode, but like a whole arc, or like a whole like 7 episodes of just like in between
Like mini
nonsense.
arc that. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually like it's a lot of stuff that happens there isn't like canon technically, like, or it's not. They usually do stuff that's not depth, like
Like
doesn't have enough
pertaining
depth.
to the main.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that causes problems later on because you're like, well, in this episode, like they did this. Why didn't they just do that in this episode? That would have saved them all the conflict. But like, it's just because like, um, it's just like that's not meant to be part of like the main storyline. It's just meant to be like for the to give the animators a break, stuff like that.
And to like keep people happy with like
Yeah,
like at least there's something still coming out.
yeah, and usually they don't
Makes
do
sense, I
seasons.
guess.
Like Naruto doesn't have like seasons; they have arcs. Dragon Ball is the same way. Um,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of like the
Yeah. I've heard.
big, which I think they're now going to more seasons. I don't know when that changed or if that changed or if it just depends on the studio. But like you see Demon Slayer has um they have seasons, but they also have like really good artwork every single episode, and they have really
Yeah,
like
that's true.
yeah, and like My Hero and like all the big name like animes now, they all are really they don't suffer from like the same like Dragon Ball Super. You can point to like whole episodes where the art is just really bad, and it's because they were overworked and understaffed, and they were
Hmm.
trying to meet all these deadlines, and they'd only had like I think I can remember 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks in their entire Super run, like Dragon Ball Super run, this series of Dragon Ball Super. Um, there's only like 5 or 6 weeks where they didn't have an episode. They took like a 2 week break or whatever, sometimes a
Hmm.
3 week break. And I was like, and I remember, I remember it because it was just not normal. Like every week there's a new episode, and then there wasn't an episode, and I was like, damn it! I planned for an episode. I didn't know that it wasn't there. I didn't look at anything to see if they had an episode that week. So it's like it's insane, but like yeah. So that's why filler exists. TLDR. It's the LDR.
Okay, well, I guess that makes sense, especially like it's like a good way to keep people like working hard, but not like wearing themselves to the point of like no return. So
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. I totally
Yeah.
respect it. Like now I respect it because I know what it is. Before I was like, man, this fucking sucks. Why I gotta sit through this like stupid filler arc? And I was one of the people that was like, man, this art is terrible. Dragon Ball Super sucks.
Mhm.
Actually, that's not really true. I didn't care. um,
So like okay, so like my question for you, like when it comes to a show, do you prefer something to be plot driven
yeah.
like
What's that? Sorry.
or like something like SpongeBob per se, where each episode they do something like different. So
Both.
like I think each of them have like pros and cons, right? Like for them, like SpongeBob, like it can be sort of like mindless fun. Like for that episode, like you get sucked in, and like the whole like adventure or story plays out, and like that's the end of it. That's the last year of it. Or
You
like a plot driven show where like it's slow growth, but you could say that the end is more rewarding.
it depends on the stuff because you got to keep in mind like the shows that are like the latter that you said like not story driven they're mostly for kids. I don't think there's any like show
That's true. That's true.
other than maybe like adult cartoons that are not story driven. But even like usually the ones that aren't story driven that are for adults are like satire or like parody. So like they're
Yeah, like there's still
not
like a
yeah.
deeper layer to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the depth comes from like what they're doing. Like Rick and Morty is a big like it's like Community, same it's the same creator. So like the whole thing is
Is
like
it really?
yeah, Dan Harmon.
I didn't.
That's why I fucking love Community. That's why
Oh
it's like why did Community
yeah.
do so poorly? And I think we talked about the production
We did. We
history.
were
Yeah.
walking. We were like, we went and got Madame Mams, and we were talking about this. I remember a while
Wait,
ago.
but did we talked about that on the podcast though, right? I thought. Should we go into
Maybe.
should I reiterate the production history? I'll do a TLDR. I don't want to go into it in depth. I don't want to take up too much time for that. But we it basically like it just had a really shitty like the production studio. I think it was CBS or I think it was CBS that it was on. They didn't handle. They looked at it mostly from like this isn't like generating revenue. You don't have an audience kind of thing. And if you look at Dan Harmon and like listen to his take on the whole thing, he'll say that they didn't like the show or whatever, and they were lying about the numbers. I don't know if that's true. I don't think there's really any way you can verify that. But he felt they weren't like they didn't like it and they wanted to just kick it off or sell it. So they were lying about how well it was doing. Um, and he actually got fired for the fifth season.
And then they
Because
brought in that new guy. They
no,
brought
sorry,
in
sorry, sorry.
someone else.
He got fired for the fourth season. Yeah, and they brought in these two. They brought in these two brothers that didn't really know.
You're
Like they
talking about
did.
the Russo brothers.
Yeah, which is ironic that like
Yeah.
the Russo brothers couldn't do it, but it's because like when you lose a creator, you don't have the feel anymore. You just don't have the feel. And oh wait, no,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of Game of Thrones where they didn't know what they were doing. Sorry, the Russo brothers did know what they were doing, but they didn't know how to get the same. They couldn't get the Harmon feel, right? Because
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they're gonna bring their own like
exactly.
unique
Yeah,
taste to it,
and
which is fair because clearly they make some good shit.
yeah, what the fuck?
They make some
Um,
good shit.
but like, it's maybe it's just they're not good at TV. Who knows? I don't know. Or
Well, I mean,
maybe.
I wouldn't say that, right? Like,
Well, okay,
because
so
they did Arrested Development, and also
oh,
they made that basic rocket science episode that you were talking about.
which is my favorite episode. Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So,
Oh
you
wait,
better
no,
eat your
that's
fucking words,
I
bitch.
thought that was season three. Oh well, whatever. Fucking what do I know? Um,
Oh man.
well I don't know if that's. I will say it's my favorite episode. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna renege. But like, it's like it's more of like I think the character feel because they also that season also has my least favorite episode, which is their take on the paintball like trope where they try to combine. There's like this thing about the darkest timeline, which is if you listen to Ken Jeong and Joel McHale. I remember the name now. I remember the name from last week, Joel
Nice.
McHale. As
Hey.
soon as we stopped recording, and I tried to think of his
He
name.
texted me. He
Yeah.
messaged me. He just says Joel McHale, and I was like, that was it. That was it.
I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But yeah, Joe McHale and Ken Jeong's podcast, it's called The Darkest Timeline, which is really sad when you think about it because they started it during the pandemic, and 2020 is like it's kind of like the darkest timeline. But they try to bring humor into stuff. It's pretty good podcast. I didn't give it enough credit. But they're pretty like they have it. I like it for like hearing Ken Jeong talk about medical stuff because I really like listening to medical talk in biology and shit like that.
Mhm.
There's a speedrunner, Mario speedrunner, and a troll level creator for Mario Maker called his name is Carl Sagan, and he's a biologist, like a PhD biologist.
Oh, I know this
Yeah,
guy. I know this guy.
dude, he's so fucking. It's so entertaining. But at the during his streams, people will like ask him like science questions, and he'll answer it. And then for the videos where they cut together all the things, they have the first like 30 minutes be dedicated to just Mario Maker stuff, and then the last like 10 minutes or like however long he talks about it, they'll put in all the science questions that he got for the episode. And then they'll like label it like science talk. That way, if you don't care, you can just skip it or just click out of the video. But if you're
Or
interested
if
in
you're
it,
going strictly to his channel for
yeah,
the
yeah,
science
exactly.
content.
You just go right there, which I thought was an amazing way to kind of tie in something that we probably should think about doing, because like some people don't care about that shit, but also other people do. People watch him because either they like both or they like one or the other, and it's
Wait,
like a
what?
way to
Okay,
bring.
wait. You're
Huh?
saying we should do? What would we do it with?
No, we can't do it because we're
Oh,
live.
okay.
But
I
like
was
I
like, I
was
don't
saying,
know
like
if we are.
because we could cut out all the like the tech talk and like the audio or what, like whatever the science shit and then like put it at the end or whatever because we're both like I'm sure like it's mostly me because I just talk, but I'm sure we're gonna get to a point where you're like, dude, water. And we're gonna be like, shut up, you environmental engineer. But we
Bro, that reminds me. When we were texting the other day, Isaac was telling me, this is just a quick tangent. Isaac messaged me. He's like, "Hey, is your Amazon down?" And I was like, "No, I haven't been on it in a while." And he's like, "Damn, like I was trying to order some chicken." And he's like, "Oh shit, I mean lettuce." And I was like,
yeah,
that
yeah,
made me laugh. I was like, "Man, this fucking."
yeah. And then he was like, oh no, yeah, I think pets are cool, and I was like, yes, as a pet and nothing else. And then he was like, what else would you use it for? And I was like,
Like, nah, like
absolutely
that's it.
nothing. Yeah, yeah. I was like, nope, that's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that could be there. And then he sad reacted that. I was like,
Man.
oh shit.
I
Did you?
think it is interesting for people that do have pet chickens and stuff. Like, that's just so. For me, it sounds so atypical, but it's like, it's just like another pet. Like,
Dude, like free
you
eggs.
just have a chicken.
Yeah. Free eggs to make more pet chickens with and not eat. 'Cause why would you?
I feel like just too many chickens though. Like, I'm not gonna like. I think it's fine to have chickens, but like, I do have to say, like, they do kind of freak me out.
What? Hold on. I want to like. Can you? I realize that animals are carnivores, and I realize that humans are omnivores. But can you imagine like the first like humanoid creature? Like, what are they called? Neanderthals? whatever we stemmed from. Can you imagine the first person like eating an animal? Like imagine that we were just, you know, herbivores, or not herbivores, but like we were just, you know, eating fruits and shit like that. Can you
Mhm.
imagine the first fucking like Neanderthal person like killing an animal and just fucking eating it?
Going at it. He's like,
Like
oh fuck.
how
He's like, this
metal?
hits.
Oh, I'm so live. And then like
He's like, oh
and they get like more protein and testosterone from the fucking meat, so they go crazy and they're like, yeah, fuck yeah.
He's like, holy shit.
Ah.
Oh man. I can't imagine like the first. There's like I've you see those posts that are like, you know, the first person to like see a cow and like milk a cow and then be like, you know what, I'm gonna drink this. Like this seems like
Oh
a
yeah,
good
yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. I saw that
But my
fucking
question
post.
is like, how many of those like ended up going poorly and that we have no knowledge of?
Probably
Or like,
fire. Probably fucking fire.
I think that's
Okay, but like think of all the
I think that's
deaths. Sorry,
but
continue.
like with fire though, because it's like it's already like you don't have to touch it for it to be like, okay, something's off with that. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
already hot. So like
Yeah.
I don't. I'm just trying to
Okay,
think
wait,
like
wait, but
putting
think
some
about
weird shit out there.
think about fire eaters, like people that do that for a living. Who's the fucking first person that ate fire? And did they burn
He's like,
their
hey boys,
esophagus? Yeah.
watch this.
Hey boys,
Check this
check
shit
this
out.
check this shit out. Because you have to realize everything that we have somebody has eaten. Everything,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Or like I'm just thinking. I feel like a lot of shit like that came off of like dares. Like
Oh
first
my
thing that
god, yeah.
popped into my mind was like sword swallowing. He's like, hey boys, watch this. And
Hey,
he's
fellas,
like,
check
and he's
this out.
fucking like just deep throats his
Just
entire
dies.
fucking like saber. He's like, oh shit. You're like, what the fuck was he
Wait,
thinking?
wait. There's one guy. So the first guy that did it died, but then there's one guy watching that like, I think I can do that.
He was like, I think I know what he did wrong, so I think I got this in the
and
fucking bag.
and then how many times did that happen until somebody finally got it right?
I don't like that shit is crazy to me.
Oh
Like,
man, it's
how
so
would I
dark.
can't imagine like willingly doing something like that.
Yeah,
Like putting a sword. Like, nah, man. Like that's not it,
I mean, personally, I'm not a pussy, so like, I'm just kidding.
bro. If I eat pussy, like I can probably eat swords. Like, oh shit. Okay,
Dude,
well, fuck.
wait, there was a joke. Dude, there was a joke that I thought of. That I was watching something and I was like, oh man, I wish I could remember it, but like it was something to the effect of like a dumb thing. They're like, oh, did you do this? And then like the dude being like, nah, and he'd be like, fucking pussy, and they're like, I'm sorry. It was
He
it
was
was a
like, dude, I
British.
triple dog dared you.
Hold on, I think I can remember it. It's a British guy. I was watching. I think I was watching Noel Miller, his like thing, and
Oh, the
he
cult
was.
thingy? Like the
Was it a
cult is not
cult?
for the
No,
cult
no,
is
no,
not
no.
for pussies.
That guy wasn't British. That was wild, by the way. If you haven't checked that out, there's a cult. There's a dude, a cult leader. This fucking 30-year-old white man who apparently. Oh,
Aren't
okay.
they all? Let's be real.
I gotta give a little bit of like whatever. This guy basically thinks he's God. He thinks he can like control weather and like move objects. The most head ass thing he fucking said was when he like did the telekinesis thing or whatever, and he had like this piece of foil that was like curved, and that he like made it move, which I'm pretty sure was just static. Like it probably was just static
Oh,
electricity like moving, you know, because it's fucking
maybe.
tinfoil.
I don't know. I
Right?
feel like he would just like
Super
bend it. He was like,
conductive.
"What's that over there?"
No, but
He,
like look at
spins
the
around and
shape.
just
No, no,
bends
no.
it.
Like he recorded a video of like him moving it with his hands, and it like
Mhm.
spun, or
Oh, does he
whatever.
wiggle his fingers over it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a
Okay,
fucking
okay.
that's a science experiment. It's not a magic trick, or it kind of is a magic trick, but I'm pretty sure like he bent it right and like kind of
Mhm.
folded it up and stuff like that, and it's a super conductive material. So I think if you put welcome back to science talk. Oh wait, welcome back to
Oh, this is it. This
wait,
is
hold
it.
on.
This
Hold
is
on. Ready? Hold on. Let me pull it up so I don't fuck this up. Welcome back to Tech Talks with Two Tall Tens.
Ooh,
Ooh.
alliteration.
Yeah. Tech Talks with Two Tall Tens. But get it?
Hey, that's what
Tens?
that's what happens when you're an English major,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well, I'm not an English major, but fuck you.
Weren't you at like one point,
I was a
like
rhetoric.
temporarily?
I was a rhetoric and
Rhetoric,
writing. I
yeah.
never took a class. Never took a rhetoric and writing class. So
Damn. I
that
hope
was
no
so
one
I
from
could.
that department is listening.
That was so I could transfer into econ. It's just a
Yeah, that's right. That's
placeholder between engineering and econ. Um,
right. Okay.
but tens, ladies,
Nice.
ladies, ship them.
Oh.
Well, not you, but like you have an opportunity to not die alone. Um,
Oh, sick.
oh, dude. Uh,
Looks like it's just you and me, buddy. Forever. Forever.
Sorry, I don't swing that way, bro.
Oh man.
um,
Damn.
what were we talking? Oh yeah, so like I think it's just static. I'm pretty sure it's just static. Because I
Static
like
electricity. Yeah.
honestly like I've seen that as like a science experiment, so I think that's what it is. Um, but he's a cult leader, and he makes people pay like $6,000 to see him. Uh, get talk about like shit and actually emotionally abuse them. There was this one girl who was like, she was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just, I don't know. And he was like, do you think you're worthy of love? Do you think you're worthy? Do you think you're
That's
worthy?
really fucked up.
Do you think you're worthy? Do you think you're worthy of infinite love? Infinitely worthy? And she just broke down and cried. And I was like, holy
God
fuck.
damn.
And he just, she
Jesus.
paid money. And then Noah was like, I was like, Noah was like, imagine being paid money. Imagine paying money to be emotionally abused. I was like, fuck, man.
God damn. That
Oh,
sounds like you're being hazed.
yeah, yeah.
But it's like a permanent state of being hazed.
And you paid for it too, and you'll probably
it's
pay
just a
again.
30 it's
That's
just a 30-year-old frat.
that's the fucked up thing, because like cults work with like they break you down emotionally and abuse you until you're kind of submissive. So if that person actually is kind of already past that point, they will pay again to be abused again, which is fucked up. That's so fucked up.
That is
Um,
fucked
I
up.
don't have to say that it's fucked up for it to be fucked up, and I feel like that's self-explanatory. Oh, that reminds me of like the did I talk about the God song that Bo Burnham did from the perspective of God?
We did talk about Bo Burnham, but I
Well,
don't think
there's a line in there. He's like, you should abstain from rape just because you think that I want you to. It's like you shouldn't rape people because that's a fucked up thing to do. He's like, shouldn't have to explain that one. Or he's like, shouldn't have, didn't think I had to write that one down for you. I was like, dang. Um,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. What was it? Oh, I was gonna say about that cult leader. He has the energy of somebody who just needs to be punched. Like I'm not a violent guy. I don't normally promote violence, but that is one guy who I think just needs to be punched. I don't think he's ever been punched in his life. I think he's just like he's rich and he's gotten scot free off. He's fucking white. Whatever. He lives in he moved countries so that he wouldn't have to face any
Oh,
kind of
is he not
backlash.
is he an American? Is he not American?
He is. I think he was an American, but he moved because people started questioning what he was doing, and like he was getting in
Damn.
trouble because it's a cult, right? And he's like scamming.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
for sure.
scamming people, so it's like that's an interest of the federal government at that point. So he like moved countries so that he wouldn't have to like do that, and now he just like hosts these big ass resorts on like his private property somewhere, um, and like just makes he made $1 million off of like one event where he just fucking said some shit. And you could just like he just has this air about himself where it's just like you can tell he's never been punched in his life. And if somebody just beat him the fuck up, like not kill him, but like just beat him up,
Just like
feel like
teach him
that
a
would
lesson.
yeah, I feel like that would just kind of
Yeah.
change his perspective. Like, oh shit, I'm not God. Like
Yeah.
holy shit, like ugh, I just he just had that kind of face where I wanted to say that about him, you know.
It's weird. It's like I'm curious to know how he was raised for him to think that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you can't be raised right if you treat people
He might not have
like
been
that poorly.
raised. He might not have been raised at all. He might have just took care of himself. Like parents just not
That's
there.
that's yeah.
Honestly,
That's also
or
possible. Yeah.
maybe it's just like maybe he did come from a rich family, so they just kind of were hands off, and then he just kind of like expects shit to happen for him or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, clearly, like for his own purposes, like he's doing something right because he's fucking making a lot
scamming
of money
people. He's
apparently.
scamming people. That's what he's
It's
doing, right?
not a
He's
good way
manipulating
of doing
people.
it for sure. Yeah, he's definitely a shitty
Dude,
person, but I mean,
I don't want to
he's
like
probably happy with the way he's living. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to promote this for people listening cuz like don't do it. But like the easiest way to make money is to just scam people, you know? Cuz like I think I don't want to say this cuz it sounds fucked up, but I think manipulating people is like one of the easiest things you can do if you know how
I
to
feel
do it.
like it. Yeah, but see, I think that's harder than like maybe it would be easy for you because you have like an
Wow.
understanding of it. I think the easiest
What are you
thing
trying
to
to say,
do
huh?
probably. Well, I'm saying if anything, I'm saying you're probably smart, right? You got to be smart to be a scammer.
And
So like,
psychotic. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like the easiest thing probably be like in terms of like actually no. I was gonna say drug dealing, but I think that also has a lot of inherent like risk associated with it. So man, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah.
Scamming
Well, yeah.
people, you definitely have to like you have to be very crafty.
I think drug dealing's harder cuz like it's like you are you're doing so many things that catch like the government's eye. Um and okay, taking off conspiracy theories that think like the federal government plants drugs in certain like neighborhoods so that they can keep the socioeconomic status low, ignoring those cuz who I mean, you people we can go on this debate and see if it's real. I don't fucking personally I don't know if that's true or personally I don't like think that that's true, but like I know some people will say like certain communities are that's what they want for that community so that they can like, you know, keep them like underneath, which is possible. I don't know. But like if you're in a let's just say you're in a community where they don't want you to be there, you're like evading taxes. Your business is evading taxes completely because you're not like all the money that you make are you're pocketing, which is like not what the government wants. The government wants your money. So that's thing number 1. 2, you're like bringing down the socioeconomic status of whatever and it's like a cartel. So like there's a lot of or kind of so like there's a lot of like there's a lot of collusion happening and like a lot of like fear mongering, which means that like people are generally unsafe in that area. uh so like there's also possible that they're like I mean like if you're selling weed that's not happening, but like you know deaths are happening, like fucking people are stealing shit, people are like whatever. um and if there's rival businesses then like there's they you don't set it's apparent that you're not settling like uh disagreements or like different like you know opposing businesses like through the law or whatever because they're both
Yeah, because if they're
undocumented.
both illegal,
Yes, so
if like both of them are being under the table, then like yeah,
you're
like
basically
you
you can handle that situation however you want. So then that's also like a threat, you know, a security threat, or whatever to like the country, the fucking well, not the country, it's not that big, but like the community, the whatever.
probably
So you have
livelihood of the community.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah, because
have
I saw this. Oh yeah, yeah. Continue.
sorry you have the attention of also the local government as well as like the federal government, and then it's just like it compounds on that shit. So it's like I think like drug dealing, unless you're doing like weed, which is like the nobody cares. I mean most people don't care, even though they really try to demonize weed. um like unless you're just dealing like small time like Adderall, fucking weed, like whatever things that don't really like they're not addictive substances, they're not like whatever where it's really going to destroy like if people get hooked on that, it's going to destroy the whole community kind of thing. I think
Mm.
it's really fucking hard to do that because you have to be so over your shoulder all the time. But like with a cult, like it's like unless you're genuinely scamming people and they have evidence that you're genuinely scamming them, there it's not like there's laws that say you can't have a cult. Technically, I mean like I don't know
Yeah, no,
because
no.
I
I get
like
what you're saying. I
because I
get what you're
think
saying.
they
Like,
like kind of
there's
frame it as like a
you're like technically what they're doing is wrong and they are harming people, but
yeah
from a legality standpoint, it's like there's less of it's like less strictly enforced or there's less laws going for it. You know what
yeah.
I think I go, is that what
And
I mean?
I think it's also like they always frame it as a religion. So you have that kind of like separation of church and state issue, which is a big like I think it's a big problem in America. Cause like, look at churches that scam people, like mega churches that are like,
Joel Olstein, yeah.
whoa, I guess. I went to Lakewood, remember? So
Oh
I
wait, did
was
you go to?
there
I mean, like,
7 years.
it
Yeah,
was
I was
some of
there.
his shit was like wild to me. Like he released like like a designer suit line of his very own custom like suits that are like perfect for like being a pastor,
Oh, what
and
the?
like delivering sermons
Yeah, I think
in
that's.
like they were super like I don't know. He was like super. I don't know. It was just fucked up.
I was young, so I don't remember exactly, and I was still kind of really in the headspace of like, oh my god, Christianity is infallible, or like whatever, like Bible's infallible. So like I didn't question. I try not to question too much, which is really bad. Always question. Even the Bible tells you to question. But like so I don't really remember. But I mean, I'm more like mean like the pastors that are like, you need to donate. I'm hearing the Lord, and He's telling me 5,000. Somebody needs to hear this. I don't know who needs to hear this, but 5,000. $5,000. If you tithe $5,000, you will receive tenfold. Good things are coming your
Yeah,
way. If you don't do this, you're gonna be stuck where you are. Breakthrough, give faith, whatever, like that. Where they're actually like
you're
they're just making
you're talking
shit
about
up.
the ones that like are using money to buy themselves like private jets and shit.
I'm
I saw
talking.
this
No,
thing.
no. I'm just talking about like the pastors that are actively telling people and like being unspecific in who they're talking to and saying like you need to give 5,000, you need to tithe $5,000 right now to people that
Mhm.
cannot tithe $5,000. They're like are
Oh, okay,
poor
and
as
they feel
fuck,
obligated to
and
do
they
that.
feel
Yeah,
yeah because it's so ambiguous. Like I can give a perspective of this as somebody who's been in the church all my life, except for like recently. It's like you feel every time they're like unspecific like that, you feel like it's you, you feel like it's you. I don't know how to
yeah. Mhm.
explain it, but it's like
Like
this weird kind of like manipulation tactic where it's like I feel guilty and I didn't do anything. Like I used to want to date when I was a kid, just because I'm like I'm a fucking guy and I'm like I have hormones or whatever. But like
Mhm.
I always felt like I was being targeted by these messages saying that you shouldn't date and you should abstain from dating or whatever because like you need to be focused on other things, you need to be focused on the kingdom, and like that's really just going to tie you down. You're too young right now. You only
23 years strong. Nice.
yeah. Fuck you. I've had girlfriends, but it's weird because my parents would encourage me to date. They've always been really supportive of me dating, or at least my mom, which I
Oh,
really
so
appreciate.
like, so it's like the there's a disagreement between like what your parents are saying, which is obviously like obviously holds merit in like religion, which you've been told is like always true, like always correct.
Yeah, which is like ironic because like, and I know I read the scriptures that they've been saying that are like the arguments for it. It's like Paul, who is like one of the most notable like disciple or not disciples, I guess disciples of like post resurrection. He was one of those guys that tried to persecute Christians because he was a Jewish man, and like the Pharisees hated the Jewish Pharisees hated the Christians, and they hated Christ because they were like it was like kind of like the control thing where they wanted control, and they were like they weren't actually following the scriptures. They were just kind of like they wanted the power, they wanted the control, kind of like what we would see from like mega churches today, like those guys.
Okay.
And they were like the ones that were like, you need to tithe a lot of money and stuff like that, and they honestly were rich as fuck. And so like he was one of those guys that was like really hopped up on that message, and he was going to like kill these Christians to stop, you know, post resurrection after he went up to heaven. And then while he was on the way, like he literally Christ blinded him and was like, "Hey, you work for me now."
What the
Like
hell?
a real Godfather like moment where he was like, "Hey, I hear you persecuted me. You work for me now, huh?" And he's like now part of the family. No, I'm just kidding.
What the
But like,
hell?
but he became he
Bro, this is
became the
litty.
most. Oh, hold on. Say your piece. Say your piece.
So that shit sounds litty. Like, holy.
Dude,
Maybe they should
honestly, it's
make a
hard as
movie
fuck.
about this shit.
I mean, honestly, that you could spin the Bible to be the most gangster thing ever. I might do that maybe. I don't know.
That
But
might be
like,
the widest thing I've ever heard you say,
what
but I
the
agree.
whitest thing? No, no, I mean like mobster. I'm talking about like mobster, not like as in like
Oh, okay,
not
okay.
like
I
gang
was like,
gang busta. Like no, 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 fucking like mobster.
uh,
Like a
okay, okay,
like a
okay,
family. Like you can look at it like a family and stuff like
okay,
that.
okay, okay.
Um,
Well, that makes more sense.
and
Okay.
like Jesus is the dawn and like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why that's so funny to me. But like so then he became like he became it's weird because he had like a 180 turnaround and became the most prominent like Christian ever. You know, he wrote half the New Testament,
Oh,
which is just
damn.
letters to churches saying like you're fucking up. This is not how you run your church. You need to you need to stop. But he
Did
was
he say like how to do it, or he was
yeah,
just like, nah,
no,
this
yeah,
is
he
bad?
no,
Oh,
no, no.
okay.
He was like he would like call them out, and then he would quote like scripture, and he would be like, oh, he would give like his argument basically. So that's why a lot of people like lean on that. They're like, oh, this is actually how you should do it because it's logical and whatever, which is it has merit. It has a lot of merit. And his message is like very close to like what you see from the gospel from like Jesus's life and how he operated. So they use that as like a even though he's not Jesus, they use his teachings as it's kind of like how Islam has like the prophets. Is the prophets like who was Muhammad? Was he a prophet? Do you know?
Muhammad was a prophet, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that, where it's like you would take that as like the word of God,
Like,
even though that's
yeah,
not
he
actually
speaks the word
God.
of God. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like you would say Paul was a prophet. They say Jesus is a prophet too. They recognize that and they're like, yeah, he's a prophet. He's not the son of God, but he's a prophet. I think. You
I
can
thought Jesus was the son of God.
that's what Christians believe. But like you can't but like Islam and Judaism
Oh, you're
don't
talking.
believe
Okay,
that. Yeah,
okay. I
yeah.
see. I see.
So
I misheard.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And if I'm wrong about that, then I'm not an authority on this. I'm giving my perspective as a Christian or whatever I am now. like uh somebody who's been in the church for a while and stuff like that. So like he oh, where was it going? So like there's a scripture where he's like if he's like you should be single cuz like it's you have a clarity and you don't have obligations when you're single. Like which everybody believes. Like fucking if you're a bachelor, I don't have to really answer anybody. I just do what I do, you know?
Right.
But
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
yeah, if I have a girlfriend or if I'm married or if you have
Then you
like
have
any kind of
responsibility.
if you
Yeah.
have a partner, you have a responsibility to that partner as you said, you know, I'm using your word cuz it's good. I fucking like it.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
came up with it myself. No one else has
Nice.
used this word before.
Dude, responsible? What does that mean? I've never heard this word before until now. Can you define
Well,
it?
I just came up with it,
Yeah.
and you know what they say? What starts here changes the
You heard it here first, folks.
world.
um,
All right. Yeah.
yeah. He's like obviously being single as a Christian is better because you just can do stuff for God and not have to like check in with anybody. But if you're married, you have that obligation. Even with God in mind, you have an obligation to whatever. And it wasn't him condemning like marriage or whatever. He even says like later like if you're one of those people who can't satisfy your urges, basically like Paul was like, if you're horny as fuck, get married. Just so you can just
Yeah.
fuck and just like
That
not
was
feel
what I
bad
was. I
about
was
it.
like, is that what you're going
That
for?
yeah,
Yeah.
basically that's what it is. So he was like, if you're one of those people, that's fine. Just get married, and that's better, you know, than being single for you because you're not in conflict with yourself. So then,
Because you're horny.
yeah, because you're horny.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of horniness.
Yeah, but they use that to another level. They're like, you guys are young, you can't get married, so like don't focus on it, which is not the way to handle that situation because it's the same kind of ironically it's the same dilemma where it's like now I'm like, well fuck, I'm horny, which I'm not like as a Christian, there's
You
been
heard it here, folks.
you heard it
Isaac.
here first, folks. Isaac as a kid was horny.
Horny as fuck.
Dude, I gotta say this. I had a girlfriend in like 8th grade, and she was like, she was an atheist, which I was like I was dating I was a headstrong Christian at that point, and I was dating an atheist, and she was like, I just thought that was a funny note, not to condemn that or whatever. Like, I was just, it was like, I don't, not ironic, but it was just whatever. So I was dating her, and she was like, I think I'm ready for sex, and I was like, whoa,
You're
whoa,
like,
whoa.
oh, ah!
You can get that somewhere else. I'm a man of God. Could have gotten laid in 8th grade, damn it.
Oh my god, you like pull out. You're like, oh my god, where's my emergency cross? You're like, oh
where
shit.
it's like, or like the
Put your fingers
opposite.
together.
Or it's like, what if it was like that? Because she lived like 2 streets down. It was kind of weird. She like literally lived on my block. And so it's like she's like, I think I'm ready for sex, and then she hears like a knock at the door, like a frantic knock at
You're,
the door. Opens it. I'm
oh
like there. I'm like,
god. And you're like, you have like a full cross. You
sup?
have your holy water
No,
and
no,
your
no, no.
Bible.
Like I want it. No, like I show up like I
Oh,
want it. Like I'm
oh,
so like
you okay?
like I'm
Okay,
so
I
deprived that I'm just like sup.
You're like, what's, whew,
Did you
what's up?
did you fucking how did you I don't want to.
Like, how the
You're
fuck?
kind of too.
How do you know my address?
You're a little too. Well, I went to her house before. Like, I actually showed up, and she was like, "Why are you here?" Like, neither one of us told our parents we were dating. She's like, "Why are you here? You can't be here." I was like, "Well, fucking."
Be like,
Shut
I'm
up.
here because we had that conversation.
You said you're horny. I was like, terrible. Weird tangent. But yeah, they use that as like they're like, which ironically, it's like now you're telling a kid who's like hopped up on emotions, going through puberty, like don't date. That's gonna create like the biggest dilemma in the world. So like
Yeah, for sure.
sitting there with a girlfriend, I always felt like they were saying like I always felt
They were
like it was
calling you
me.
out.
I
Yeah.
I expected every sermon to be about that, and I always thought that they were talking about me or whatever, or I always felt guilty, even though like there's no reason to feel guilty. Like I wasn't even doing anything. The most I did was like
Yeah.
kiss, and it's like not that big of a deal.
Oh,
Most
Christ.
I did, the most I did was fucking stick my tongue in her ass. Like it's not a big deal.
Ah. I'm thinking back to that
I'm
mob
just
thing, the
grocery
mobster
shopping.
thing that you said. I don't like that. But
Oh,
I'm
God.
going back to that mobster thing. You're like, hey, you talking to me?
Wait, it's like,
They're
or
like, what
it's
the
like,
fuck?
or it's like I get called into like the pastor's office, and they're just like, have a seat, and I like sit down. It's like, I hear you have a girl, and I'm like, no, 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 Don, no, please, no, 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 no. It's like, no, no, it's fine, it's fine. I get it. You're a young man. You have needs, but
Like
I have,
horniness.
yeah. He's like, but I have needs too. And I don't see how our needs can really coincide, right? You see what I'm saying? It's like, Don, please, please, I have children. It's like, no, 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 don't worry. I understand. I'm going to give you an option. Your option is your dumper. You got a dumper. It's like, okay, well, what's the alternative? It's like, no, there's no alternative. You got a dumper. You got a dumper. Or I take your legs. And then
Oh, God.
I end up walking away from that like, thank you, Don. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Don. Thank you so much. I can't do an Italian accent right now. He's like, oh, thank you so much. He's like, get out of here. I don't want to see your face anymore. And then he like I leave, and he's like, it's a good kid. He's a good kid.
Oh.
I gotta make that
And
movie.
you'd be like, and he's gonna be even better now that he's gonna have more time for the Lord.
Yeah. So I'm just looking out for you. You hear? You're gonna have more time for the Lord, and more importantly for me. It's like, shouldn't that be the other way around, Don? Don't you talking back to me? You're talking back to me? No, 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 Don, no, no, no. Fucking bullshit. But yeah, so like, so honestly, like it's so manipulative. But like when they frame it as like church and state, like, what do you do? What can you do? Like when we have separation like that, it's something that needs to be rewritten. Just because like, why the fuck aren't we
I think
taxing churches?
at this point, it's very, like, I think it'll happen eventually. I think it's more of a matter of time.
It's gonna
But
take
I
a
think
while.
it's gonna take a while
Yeah.
because by the time that everybody in power, like who, like who doesn't believe or who may not like act upon the separation of church and state, like by the time they're out of office, like that's when it'll start like happening.
Yeah.
But
But
right now they're the people in control.
I think it's more of like a issue of like lobbying. I don't want to be conspiracy theorist, but it's like there's so much like that goes into like getting elected and shit like that. You really do have to suck the dick of like the people in your party, and it's all like it's marketing. When you like platforms are bullshit. They just kind of do like marketing research, and they sit there and they say this is what our constituents want. This is what our voters want. And if we want to maximize our voters, we have to hit all these nails on the head. And there's a um big chunk of Americans, at least in the Republican Party, that are like, we want core Christian values, which are not really real Christian values when you look at it and like actually like compare like the teachings versus like what they actually say, because it's just like, I don't know. I I read a post recently that was like, it was like, do you is America as bad as everybody says it is? And I was expecting people to blow up America and be like, dude, yeah, fuck this country. But everything was like super positive. And I was like, what the hell? And the main
Huh.
idea was like, so creds to everybody who gave this idea, but the main idea was like, we have a big fucking country. And when you look at it, like 350 million, like in our population, I don't know if that's citizens or like, I'm sure it's just like consensus, like documented people. That's a
Mhm.
low estimate. 350 million is the like low estimate of people living here. And if you look at that locally and 50 states, like that could be so much bigger. That could be like 2 times as big. If in every single state there was like half the population was documented, that number could be twice as big as it is. I don't think it is. In some states they don't have a huge population density. Um, but like that shit is like it when you look at that and say like, man, there's so many different opinions in this country, and not every opinion is bad. It's just like there's like sectors to it, right? So you have like like I said
Like
before,
it only applies to a certain group.
yeah. And that
Mhm.
the major problem that we have is just the way our election system works, and like getting representatives elected and stuff like that, and how much of like a game it is. Like it's really like, how much can I hit, how many nails can I hit on this board, more so than my opponent, you know?
Mhm.
Um and so like they have to appeal to those, like, whatever. I don't think our current administration really reflects that fact. I think there's, I don't know what they're doing, like, honestly, but it's just like it's a problem of like, you have a chunk of America that's like kind of in their own bubble, and they're like, I guess this actually applies to everybody. We're all in our own bubbles of like, I believe this, I think this way, this is what reality is, not to me, but this is what reality is, even though it's like, this is what reality is to me. And so like, there's a lot of people, most people, and honestly everybody at some point in your life, and with certain topics, where you're just like, this is how things are, and I'm not willing to listen to anybody else, you know?
Mhm.
And that's like, I think that's one of the major issues, is like, I feel like it's more like an education system kind of thing, where it's like, we're not really teaching people how to be like good consumers of data and like checking sources and stuff. Oh my god. I was going to bring this up. Speaking of checking sources, you hear that Twitter's going to do fact check every tweet now?
Really?
Did you
I
hear
did
about this
not hear
shit?
about
This
that.
was the topic that I was going to talk about, but I don't know if we have enough time to do that now. So we may have
I
to
think
touch
yeah,
that.
we have like 2-3 minutes left, and then we're gonna have to wrap up.
Yeah, so I'll just give a little short piece of that, and then you can react to it, and then I'll finish up my like piece, and then we can peace out. Ah,
Oh,
huh?
nice,
This has been more of
nice.
a kind of like laid back, just chatting kind of thing. So hopefully you guys like this, where we just kind of talk about stuff. But yeah, there's like the like so Donald fucking
Oh,
tweeted something that was wrong, and
okay.
Twitter called him out, and they were like, this is wrong. And then so then because of that, they were like, we're gonna start implementing like a fact check system, where like you have to like, you can't just say something on our platform that's wrong, or else we're gonna label it as false information. Which is, I think, my thing was like, that's really cool and that's really good, for like data sources. But like, what if they do that with everything? So like, so like, I sent out like a tweet thread, or like a series of tweets, and I'm like, man, school is rough today, and it's like false. And then I'm like, school
You're
is,
just being a
wait,
bitch.
oh no, it's like school is easy, question mark, false. It's like, I didn't go to school today. True. And then my dad fucking replies to that tweet, and he's like, you're grounded, and it goes back true. Like shit. So like you can't get away. You can't get away with any bullshit, and it's like such an advanced system that it's like a basically a lie detector. Um, that's a mute point. But Donald, this is actually crazy. Donald actually was like, "I'm taking Twitter down. I'm taking you down." And it's like it's a whole
Like, is
idea.
this like a personal vendetta, or is he gonna make something?
No,
Like,
he
is he
okay.
gonna?
So hold on. Well, I don't want to spoil it. He there's a miss. He doesn't understand the law or the amendment to the Constitution that says we have free speech. Free speech, what it is that you cannot be persecuted by the government for something that you say. So I can say America sucks and nobody's breaking down my door. Maybe my neighbors, if they're, you know, like nationalistic, patriotic, whatever, um, they might be breaking down my doors. But the federal government is not legally allowed to do that. They might still do something, but they're not legally allowed to do it, and it's unconstitutional to do it. So like, I would just sue, or you could just sue if they do that. So like, basically, like, you can have a company, that primarily caters to gay people, and the government can't be like, we don't recognize, like 5 years ago or whatever, they can't be like, we don't recognize gay, whatever. So you got to shut down your company. You can't promote that idea. They're allowed to promote that idea all they want. You know, same thing
Mhm.
with like political figures can promote whatever idea that they want to, and the government can't say you're not allowed to do that. The party might be able to be like, we don't want you to do that. That's against our platform, and if you do that, we're not gonna vote. We're not gonna put you on our platform. Which is like within their rights, as long as they're not like as long as it's not like they're censoring that in like a government way, like a government office isn't sending like a cease and desist letter or whatever. And that's what that law says. But private companies can do whatever they want, you know. So like that gay company, if somebody's homophobic, they don't have to service them at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah. There was a. Remember the whole cake thing?
yeah, that was legal. They were within their rights.
Yeah.
Fucked up as it is, the Christian people were allowed to not make a cake for a gay guy. You know, it sucks. It's fucked up, but like, you know, I think there was a
Wait,
wasn't
I'm misremembering it.
it's there's like a Christian cake thing, and there's a gay couple that wanted a cake for their wedding, and they said we're not going to give you a cake,
Mhm.
and they're
Yeah,
within their right
that's.
to do that. They're within their right to like, not to
Yeah, it's
deny
really. Yeah,
service.
it fucking sucks.
I think wasn't the thing with it like the conclusion was like like a gay couple or like a gay person or like somebody in the LGBTQ plus community was like open their own thing and they started servicing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm speaking out of my head
I'm.
or speaking out of my
I.
ass
I'm
right
not
now.
sure entarily, but I hope it panned out well
Yeah, I think so. I
because
think
I
it
know that
did.
whole
Yeah.
situation just sucked.
Yeah, it was fucking weird. I was like, bro, what are you? You guys are dumb. And I was like, that's not promoting love and understanding. It's just you're being stupid and you're making an issue that's not an issue an issue. It's like fuck,
Mhm.
stop. What are you doing? It's part of the reason why I'm like not really aligning myself with the church and like
Mhm.
kind of like going back and forth of like I don't know if I'm a Christian anymore. Just because it's like I can't support shit like that where it's like and everybody seems to be like that seems to be the central idea in most churches of like this is how we are. Like I went to Austin Stone. Oh, I don't want to. Sorry, I went to an ambiguous church that who knows what it is. I'm not trying to dox people, but I'm not gonna speak on that. We can talk about that in another one maybe. Um, but like so he fucking is trying to shut down Twitter, which is unconstitutional. Um, and
Yeah,
he
I don't think you
can't
can
do
do
it.
that.
He can't do it, but he released an executive order that took away some protections from private companies. And this happened
Really?
like yesterday. So it's like
God damn.
and legal experts were like this is like what he's saying like I'm going to take down Twitter and shit like that is like he can't do that. Like he literally has no merit. It has no like legal backing whatsoever. And it's just like the dumbest fucking thing. And then Twitter was like, if he really does find a way to shut us down, we're just gonna move to Germany. So it's like, cause it's an internet platform. Like, what? It's fucking. They can go anywhere and still be online. It's like stupid.
Yeah.
It's a whole stupid thing.
It's like he thinks that doing that will like kick him out of America somehow, but like
Yeah, he just
oh
doesn't understand whatever, and it's just kind of like, oh my god, it's just like this is our president, bro. What the fuck?
god
Ugh,
damn.
It's 4 years, man. 4 years, almost done. Hopefully, he doesn't get
Almost.
reelected. Although I don't know if I have faith in Biden, but I'm still, I don't know.
I don't know. Remains to be seen.
I just,
But
I'm not trying
oh,
to make this like a political stance or like try to say that we're aligning to one party or the other. What I want for this country is a strong leader who is like can unite us. Cause like there's so much shit going on. You fucking saw the Missouri riots.
you mean the Minnesota ones?
I thought it was Missouri. Man, I don't know what I'm
No.
talking about. Yeah, yeah. Yes. No, yeah. That's what I said. Minnesota. I must have broken. The you know our call must have broken out.
Yeah, must have messed up a little
Must have
bit.
messed up. Yeah. Um. Yeah. The fucking Missouri riots. Fucking the whole. Just that whole situation is just absolutely fucked. Um.
Hmm.
And we don't have like a president that can like unite people through that. And I just like we're tearing ourselves apart. Even with COVID, like the half the country is like stay indoors, wear masks. The other half of the country is like you can't cage me. I need to be free. We're politicizing a virus. That was when you look at it that way, it's like what the fuck? Why is a virus the most natural destructive force? That's maybe not the most destructive, but like one of like a natural destructive force, and we're making it a political thing. It's like, what are we doing? I don't know.
Yeah, man.
Weird note
It's
to end on.
fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely food for thought. That is all the time we have for this episode. So Isaac, any closing remarks?
Yeah. Quick comment on the last episode. Hopefully you enjoyed our 2 hour special. That's the only time that we've actually gone through and tied up loose ends. I don't know if we got them all,
Eh,
but
I'd
I
like to think so.
I hope that you guys can appreciate, I guess, the humor in that idea of us just spending almost like what was it, like 30 minutes to an hour, just tying up all these loose ends on top of the episode that we recorded.
Definitely more than 30 minutes. I'll tell you that.
No, yeah, like 45 minutes to an hour of just us like going back and saying, yeah, we didn't actually finish this thought. So hopefully you guys got a kick out of that. And again, thank you for listening. Honestly, it's really great that we have people following us, we have people fucking downloading our podcast, we have people listening. Just the other day, one of my
Mhm.
friends was like, "Yeah, I listened to episode 2, and I was dying laughing. Like, it's great. You guys are great."
Nice.
Yeah, she was like, I really like you guys' dynamic is really good." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, woohoo!"
Nice. Well, that's really good to hear.
Yeah,
Just to add on to that, what Isaac was saying. Really appreciate everybody who's listening. We're gonna be getting these out on a regular schedule now. We were off a little bit just because of school ending and all. But now we're back.
yeah,
And you can for updates on when episodes are going to be coming out. You can follow us on Instagram at 5foot12. The T in 12 and foot. It's one T. They share one because
yeah,
it's pretty cool, pretty
yeah,
fucking sick.
yeah,
But yeah, so you can follow
yeah,
us at 5foot12 on Instagram.
yeah,
And you can we'll probably put up some polls and like ways for if you have questions, you can submit them to us and we can try answering them
yep.
in a later episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank
So
you
yeah,
guys. Thank you guys
well
for
I think
listening.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so see you next episode.
peace. USB-C is amazing. Um, I can't stop sucking off the dick of USB-C.